looks like 2024 is definitely not Dylan's year because we're only 1 week into the new year and Dylan has already been arrested twice. So he was initially arrested on New Year's Day and he was arrested for domestic battery. Here's a mugshot from his recent arrest. So this arrest happened after he did that live with Marissa where Marissa was calling him out, claiming he woke up doing duster at 8 in the morning and claimed that he had just had a heart attack due to drugs 3 weeks prior. And this is Dylan's second domestic arrest in less than a year. He was arrested back in May, and you can see in his mugshot, he literally has blood on his face and on his shirt. He seriously looks scary in that picture right there. This May arrest was from an incident with Marissa, and he was charged with 2 domestic battery charges and 2 theft of an unauthorized consent of $500 or less. So he spent $500 or less on her debit or credit card. So after he was arrested on New Year's Day, I got a notification the next day that Dylan was released from jail, and he ended up bonding out of jail. And the next day after he bonded out, he decided to go live, and he was a couple blocks from Marissa's apartment, and he said that he had just called the police because he had just gotten out of jail the day before and he wanted to get all his belongings from Marissa's place. And you know, how many times have we seen this man go live now saying, oh, I'm going to get a moving truck, I'm going to pack all my items and be gone tomorrow. And a lot of times he ends up dropping all this money to move all his stuff out just for him to turn around and move in the next day and for them to have another fight. And it's just the same thing over and over again. So Dylan went live and he's like, okay, so the police told me as long as I call them and get their help, then I can get my belongings from her place. And he's like, I'm making sure I'm a few blocks away so they can't say that I came anywhere near her place. And this is where Dylan made a crucial mistake though. So he calls 911 and he was on live and he literally went live 3 different times while waiting on 911. Like, it probably was an hour that passed by before the police officers finally did show up, but they're probably just over it at this point and know Dylan and Marissa by name. And they do finally show up, and when they show up, they're asking Dylan, have you reached out to Marissa? So part of his bond stipulation is he's not allowed to have contact with the victim, which the victim in his case is Marissa. And he's like, I'm not going to say anything to get myself in trouble, you know, because if he would have said yes, they would have put handcuffs on him and arrested him. So I knew when he said, I'm not going to say anything to get myself in trouble, that he had been talking to Marissa, because if you haven't, then just say no. And they're like, okay, well, we got to see what happened. And so they go upstairs, they talk to Marissa, and they find out that he has been texting Marissa. So next thing you know, they come down, and instead of leading Dylan up to Marissa's place to help him get his stuff, he gets arrested. So pretty much he called the cops on himself. Dylan was trying to say, I feel like I'm set up by the 911 dispatcher because I was a few blocks away from Marissa's place, but when he called and said, I'm here to get my stuff, the dispatcher was like, okay, go in front of the building and wait for the police. And I guess he's not supposed to be at the building, so he's like, you know, I'm not trying to get arrested, but she told him to go ahead and do that. And that's what Dylan kept reiterating to the police. He's like, the dispatcher's the one who told me to come here. And they're like, yeah, but you're the one who decided to reach out to Marissa when they told you you're not supposed to. I have a clip of his most recent arrest on my Instagram and TikTok. I was going to react to it on here, but it was on my phone, and my son completely shattered the screen on my phone a few days ago, so I can't even see it at all. So here is the record of Dylan being arrested. He's in Cook County Department of Corrections right now, being held without a bond. So Dylan has a court date tomorrow at 9 a.m. and during that court date he will find out if the judge is going to grant him a bond or where they're going to go from here. So before Dylan's most recent arrest, he was on a rampage on Instagram tagging Marissa over and over again. He says, please tell me that somebody saw when this girl said I was doing duster/nitrous and then she called the police on me about my drug problem. LOL. Then he posted a picture of him holding a can of duster, and he said she literally grabbed it off the ground out the alley, and then she got high with her friends at my house while she had me locked up for this bogus domestic. But it's like, why are you hiding it in the alley when you know the police are showing up, that just screams guilty to me. Because if you're not using this duster for no illegal reasons, then just leave it be in the house. Why are we hiding in the alley? Then Dylan posted a shot of a phone showing that he sent $2,500 to Marissa, and he says, look, the girl who has zero bills, we split, or I pay more than half of everything, but she wants to cap on the internet like she's a big girl. Then he tags Marissa and he says, think twice about doing business with somebody who doesn't have a car, can't afford their rent, and why would you let them manage anything of yours when their own stuff isn't profitable? And then here's Dylan saying, I pay my own rent. All this online gaslighting is ridiculous. And he says, I try to prove this to anyone. And then he said, hey, if you're looking for someone to manage your OnlyFans and help grow your online presence, hit up Marissa in Lucid Talent. So apparently she is trying to start her own OF agency. They can show you how to make $12,000 off OF over the course of a year. And then he posted, more tea coming, stay tuned. And then not long after that, he was arrested. So I guess we're going to have to wait for the tea. So while I was watching this live, I definitely learned something new about Dylan's past. So apparently when Dylan was a teenager and he was only 16 years old, him and a bunch of friends got together and he was with his friend Jessica Savin, who was 17 at the time, and they were with a few other friends. And somebody in his chat kept bringing up Jessica Savin and claiming he was responsible for her death. So I decided to do more research. And first, let me say what he had to say about it. So he said that him and his friends went to this warehouse, and they were at some loft, and then they went to this warehouse that was right next to the loft, and they decided to go to the roof, and they're walking on the roof, and he claims this girl fell through a skylight because it had no reinforcements, and she fell over 45 feet. And he said that they're all young, they had no idea what was going on, so they thought she was okay, they just thought she was down at the bottom and they needed to save her. So Dylan claims his dad showed up 20 minutes later, and they went to his dad's loft and they got some kind of like workout rope, and then he was trying to tie it together to some other kind of rope, and they thought that they were just gonna throw the rope down and that they were gonna just kind of use it as a ladder and go down there and save her and pull her up. Well, I looked up her name and decided to find the full story in the paper, and this is what they had to say. So the article explains that Chicago police are investigating how a Glencoe 17-year-old pierced the glass skylight pane of a north side warehouse and fell 45 feet to her death. An autopsy found alcohol in her blood, which suggests that detectives will demand to know how it got there. We are left with two devastating certainties. A young woman is dead in circumstances that didn't have to be, and every day for the rest of their lives, a number of people who are close to her are doomed to ask themselves how they could have changed those circumstances. They'll be asking, in essence, whether they failed Jessica before she died, but also after. And Dylan claims that he was not invited to this girl's funeral, and he kind of felt some type of way about that. But he said her mom ended up forgiving him later on. It says that the witnesses and police investigators reported that nearly 2 hours elapsed before anyone called 911 to report Jessica's fall from the roof from where she had gone with friends. 2 hours? And Dylan was trying to say 20 minutes. Even 20 minutes is bad enough, but 2 hours? And it says the autopsy concluded that she had died instantly, but the story said the friend she was with, who apparently did not know whether she had survived the fall, attempted to reach her for nearly 2 hours without calling 911. One of the teens allegedly begged witnesses at the scene to not call police. Cedel Gilmore, who works at an adjacent warehouse, said he was approached around midnight on Saturday night by a teen who was behaving erratically, and they just asked him, did you hear any broken glass? And so that first time the teen had ran into that guy who worked at the warehouse, that would have been the perfect time because he's an adult to ask him for help, to call 911. But instead he ran off. Then an hour later he comes back and approaches the warehouse worker. So the second time is an hour after the teenager approached the worker asking if he heard any broken glass. And this time the teenager was like, Well, the reason I asked you about that an hour ago is because one of our friends is missing. So once the teenager let the warehouse worker and truck driver know that his friend was missing, they decided to go to the roof of the building and they crossed the adjacent warehouse roof. And that's when the warehouse worker spotted broken skylight pane. And when he looked down into it, he saw a white face. So police are still checking the time elements, but Jessica's fall likely occurred around midnight, the first time the teenager approached the warehouse worker. And the first call to 911 wasn't logged until 1:49 a.m. Sunday. So firefighters found the girl dead inside the warehouse, and it says we'll let police sort out how Jessica Savin I want to say Savin, but it's Savin, I believe, got to the roof and why she had access to alcohol, how she fell, and all the other troubling questions her case raises, and some who failed Jessica. Just when you thought this story couldn't get any more sad, it does. So Jessica, she passed away when she was 17, and she was supposed to be going to college a year later, and she was supposed to go to college to be a doctor. So she had big ambitions and dreams. She was supposed to go to college a year after she passed away to go to school to be a doctor, and that was just ripped away. So an autopsy revealed that her blood alcohol concentration was 0.184%, which is more than twice the legal limit for an adult to drive. And family and friends felt the ripples of Jessica passing away, and it ended up hitting her mother so hard, leading to a deep, dark depression that the mother just could not escape, according to her former husband. And she ended up passing away 2 years after her daughter passed away when she was only 38 years old. So they ended up looking at the mother's bedroom, and they said they found 9 empty prescription medication containers and a few scattered beer bottles. So the medical examiner's office looked into it, and they could not determine whether it was something she did on purpose, where she was trying to unalive herself, or this was an accident. I tried to look for an update because this was back in 2009. I could not find any updates. I can't even imagine what she was going through, because I love my kids so much, and if I lost one of my kids, I would literally feel like I lost half of me, and I would never be the same again. So that's it for this video, guys. Let me know what you guys think about everything in the comments below. I will definitely give you guys an update tomorrow after Dylan goes to court, but let me know what you guys think. Give this video a thumbs up. Check out my lashes and cosmetics at AccordingtoAmber.com. Give this video a thumbs up, subscribe, and thank you so much for watching.